Welcome to Whiskey's a Journey. My name is Peter Fossano. Today's Monday. I got 2 reviews coming at you. It seems like I can't keep up with all of the releases that Jim Beam is having for this year, and it seems like this entire month is going to be Jim Beam heavy. So today I've got Little Book the Infinite, and then I've got Booker's The Reserves 2024 release. Let me go ahead and get these things out of the box, and then we'll pour them, nose them, taste them, talk about them, add a little bit of water, and then if you stick around, we'll give it a score at the end. All right, let's go ahead and start with the Little Book, the Infinite first. This is going to be a annual release, and it's basically going to be something like an infinity bottle. It's a Kentucky straight bourbon whiskey coming in at 119.3 proof. It does come with a little bit of a neck tag with some stuff on the label, which is almost impossible for me to read. So I just take a picture of it and enlarge it so I can read it. This is a blend of 7 to 20-year-old whiskeys. 750 milliliter bottle. I'm in Phoenix, Arizona, if you don't know, and I paid $219.99 for this. It smells very, very sweet. I think it's the classic Jim Beam nuttiness. Good amounts of vanilla, good amount of oak. It smells like it's going to be very rich. And as I'm sitting here smelling it, again, my mouth is watering like crazy. I'm a fan of Jim Beam, and I like that nutty flavor. I do like Booker's, and I do like Little Book. And this certainly does smell slightly different than the other expressions. Yeah, on that nose, lots of oak, like sweet oak, brown sugar, vanilla. I think this is classic Jim Beam with that nuttiness, with also those classic bourbon notes, brown sugar, vanilla, and caramel. All right, let's get this thing on the palate. Yeah, that's pretty nice. There is a little bit of a cherry note that's coming through that I did not get on the nose, and the heat of the 119.3 is just radiating. That cherry note is starting to bloom a little bit more. There is definitely some oak tannin on the side of the tongue. It goes a little bit effervescent on the arrival. That mid palate, like I said, that tannin shows up, and then on the finish is nothing but cherry and oak. Yeah, first sip so far, I like that quite a bit. All right, let's go ahead and get into the reserves. Booker's The Reserves 2024. All right, some of the stats on this, I just have it written down, just my memory is shot these days. So this is also another Kentucky straight bourbon, 125.9 proof. Looks like we have ages for this one, 8 years, 2 months, 12 days, uncut, unfiltered, 750 milliliter bottle, and again, $131.99 in Phoenix, Arizona. Oh, that smells very oaky, like really oaky. A little bit of the nutty note, a little bit of a dusty peanut note rather than peanut butter. Good vanilla, good caramel, brown sugar. I think it smells like your typical Booker's. All right, let's go ahead and get this one on the palate. Oh, okay. So everything that is on the nose is definitely coming through on the palate. I do like the burn of the ABV. Burn's the wrong word. The heat that comes along with that ABV radiates in the chest. It's I think it's pretty saturating. Makes my mouth water again. I do get a cherry note that shows up a little bit later in the back of the palate, and that cherry note is not as dominant as the Infinite. Yeah, initial thoughts, I think they're both pretty good. I wouldn't say that neither or either one of them are outstanding, but they're decent. That was my first sip for both of them. That could be a little bit deceiving, so let me get a second sip in with both of them. Go back the other direction. We'll do the reserves first, and then go back to the Infinite. I'm going to tell you what, the dominant note in both of these is oak, followed by that nuttiness, vanilla, brown sugar, and standard bourbon notes. All right, let's go ahead and get that second sip on the reserves. Yeah, we've got some layers of oak, subtle amounts of cherry, brown sugar, caramel, vanilla. Just like this, we do get a little bit of effervescent on the arrival, tannin on the side, good amount of oak, and then on that finish, slight amounts of cherry. That's when the vanilla, the brown sugar, and the caramel kind of radiate a little bit more. Yeah, I think this tastes like a classic Bookers, those, Booker releases 4 times a year. I think this is slightly elevated. There's a little bit more depth to the flavor, a little bit more intensity, and definitely a lot more oak. Not bad. $130, good? I don't know. All right, so I got the water into this one, so let's go ahead and go back to the Infinite. All right, so now there's a little bit more cherry and vanilla showing up on the nose. I didn't get that initial cherry note on the nose, but I did get it on the palate. So maybe just being in a glass a little bit, opening it up, is offering something a little bit different. Still good oak, caramel, brown sugar. Yeah, all those intense flavors are still coming across as something that I think is going to be very deep, very dark, very rich flavors. All right, let's get the second sip in. There it is again. Oak, cherry, brown sugar, vanilla. Effervescence on the front, oak tannin on the side. Long finish, sweet oak, a little bit of tobacco's coming through now. Then there is a slight bitterness or tang that is showing up late on the finish. And let's get a little bit of water into this one. I don't know if my sips are a little bit more in this one than the reserves. All right, so let's talk a little bit about each of these while the water is doing its thing. Start out with the little book, The Infinite. So I think the whole purpose of this bottle is for Freddie Noe to pay tribute to the generations of master distillers in his family. Booker Noe, Fred Noe, and then Freddie Noe. They all have their own individual contributions to this bottling. As Freddie Noe put this together, he took certain barrels that his grandfather, Booker Noe, had, his dad, Fred Noe, and then himself. The contribution for Booker looks like it's going to be the 20-year selection. His father, Freddie Noe, had a 14-year barrel, or barrels. And then Freddie's contribution or selection came from 7-year-old. And then he looked at some barrels that all 3 of them had their hands in, and it looked like that age for those barrels or that barrel is going to be an 8-year-old. So based on the information that I've read, this is going to be an infinity barrel, but it's not a barrel. They're going to keep what was left over from this bottling in a tank. So it's not going to go through further aging. 70% of the initial batch was bottled. 30% is going to be stored to the side in a stainless steel tank so they can add to it for next year. So each year we should get a little bit of a different profile, just like in an infinity bottle that you would keep at home would kind of give you as well. Each time you add something to it, it's going to change the flavor. All right, the information for Booker's The Reserves 2024. Looks like this one is going to be Freddie Noe's celebration of his grandfather's legacy. So we went around to different warehouses and different floors and selected some different aged barrels. A typical Booker's that is usually released every 4 years is somewhere around 6 to 8 years of age. And it looks like the offering that is in this one looks like the ages are going to be anywhere from 8 to 14. And like I said, it's Freddie Noe's celebration of his grandfather's legacy. So I think the natural tendency is going to be going towards a little bit of older bourbons to give you a little bit of a different profile from the standard Bookers. All right, if you know or would like to add any other information for these two, let me know in the comments down below. If you have had either one of these, let me know what you think of them. And now that the water has had some time to do its thing, let's go ahead and get on to the Reserves 2024 and see what it's like. All right, the peanut note with the water has definitely jumped up a little bit more. The oak note is now a little bit subdued, and that vanilla is still there. Not getting much cherry. And as far as spice goes, I think there is now a slight amount of black pepper that's coming through. All right, let's go ahead and get it on the palate. Okay, definitely oak, definitely more spice, not a whole lot of vanilla or cherry. That effervescence is still happening on the arrival. That mid palate is all oak. On that finish, the ABV is still pretty nice. We get elevated vanilla. A slight amount of cherry is now coming through. I don't think I would add water to the 2024 Reserves. I think I like it without water a little bit more. I do like a good balance of sweet and spice, but I think adding the water to this brought out a little bit more tannin of the oak, and there's a little bit more spice, and it's not as sweet to balance out. So I would leave this without water. All right, how about the Infinite? See how this is doing with the water. Very muted, more vanilla. That oak note is now in the background. Oh no, maybe not. Maybe just needed to coat the glass a little bit more. That oak is still there. Sweet oak, some tobacco. It's still getting to me. My mouth is still watering. All right, let's go ahead and get this one on the palate. Let's get a little bit more poured here. I tell you what, both of these, I think, don't react that well by adding water. I think it crushes all of the nuances and the intensities of the flavor, which I think would be a normal reaction by adding water. I think by proofing it down, you're going to disguise a little bit of the flavors, and it's just not going to be as intense. I still like them both, but I don't think they are, that spectacular. I would say that the Booker's, the Reserves 2024, is an elevated Booker's. So if you're looking for something a little bit different that has a little bit more age and a little bit more oak, definitely go with this one. And as far as the price difference goes, maybe a $35 price difference, I think it's worth it. The Infinite being $200 annual release, I feel that's a stretch. I feel there is definitely going to be some releases over the years that are going to be really good because they have a good solid base to start from, but it might be a stretch at $200. I feel like all of the releases that Jim Beam has done this year, or at least that I've had, and like I said earlier, I think this month of November is heavily leaning towards Jim Beam. I still have the Booker's or the Baker's 13 to review and compare it to the Baker's 7. And then at the very end of the month, I believe it's my Sip It or Skip It Kentucky Tea. So it's going to be Jim Beam heavy this month. And if you are a Jim Beam fan and you're interested in supporting the channel, I do have a giveaway, a November giveaway happening. The rules to that giveaway are in the description below. If you want to contribute to the channel or support the channel, there's a little heart with a $sign in it below the video. It's called the Super Thanks. Any $5 increment is going to get you one entry into the giveaway for November. I'll spin my random wheel in December and select a winner for November. If you end up winning, you can choose 8 2-ounce samples, just November only, because my first Friday Flight Fight was only 4 bottles. You can choose 8 2-ounce samples of anything that I reviewed in the month of November, and then automatically included into the giveaway will be the 4 2-ounce samples of the Green River First Friday Flight Fight. And last thing, before I get on to the score, if you are new to the channel and you like this information and you're not subscribed to the channel, do me a favor and subscribe to the channel. Just click on that little button right there. Share this with anybody that's in the whiskey world that you think might get enjoyment out of it. Turn on that bell notification because I produce and release videos every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Let's get on to the score. If you are new to this channel, I score everything out of 5 stars. I usually live anywhere between the 3.5 to the 3.95, taking a look at my scores over the course of the history of the channel. Something really has to wow me to get into the 4s. Do I have a preference one over the other? Yes and no. They're both offering something completely different. With the exception of the oak note, I think they both have a pretty good oak presence. Overall on the nose, I think I like this. And then on the palate without the water, I think I'm preferring this one. If I'm comparing this to a normal Booker's, I like this more than a normal Booker's. If I'm just looking at this one separate, apart from the Booker's and comparing them to the other little books, I think this one falls short just a little bit of the other little books just because it seems more traditional rather than experimental. So if I'm going to have to give these a score, I would say that the Booker's, the Reserves 2024 is going to get a 3.75. I like it, and I like it a little bit more than the normal Booker's, and I don't think I rate Booker's higher than that. So I'm going to put this at 3.75. Little Book, the Infinite, I do like where they're going. I think there's going to be definite improvements from year to year, release to release. I can't take that into account, knowing or thinking that, down the road, this will be better. They have to have a starting point. So based on where they're at right now, I'm going to put this one at a 3.6. I think it's worth keeping an eye on. But if you also take a look at the $200 price tag for this, and I think that's natural just because of the vatting and then having this go through the entire process of trying to find a blend that is going to be a little bit different from year to year. Storing it into the steel tanks, I don't know how much effort that actually is, but I think the process of trying to find a different blend from year to year, finding different barrels, putting different ages in there, taking a look at some barrels that Booker, Freddie, and Fred have all contributed to is going to take some time, and maybe that is going to be causing the price to be a little bit higher. Not exactly positive. Let me know why you think this is $200 and if that's going to be reasonable or not for a limited single year release. All right, I have one last thing to do, and I know I do have a little bit of water. That's why I poured a little bit more in here. Let me grab a Glencairn, do my final blend of Little Book the Infinite, Booker's The Reserves 2024. All right, and to tell you what, looking at the color of this, the Infinite is definitely a lot darker. Well, not a lot darker, but it does definitely look like there is a difference in color. And I don't know if that just means the age of this is a little bit more. Just out of curiosity, Booker's Reserve 2024 has anything between 8 and 14. So maybe the older 20-year-old in the Infinite is causing it to be a little bit darker. Boy, that is nutty times 10. Oak and vanilla. That ABV is now turning a little bit ethanol-y or astringent or acetone. Took me a second, but I got there. A little bit of an acetone note. Yeah, this is like creamy peanut butter with chunks of oak in it. All right, let's go ahead and get it down the palate. Ooh, no. My initial thought, no. Very tannin, very oaky, over oaked, spice, almost no sweetness to mention at all. The effervescence went away, bitter, tannin. I don't like that at all. This is definitely something that you can probably just not do. Unless you want to confirm what I'm getting. And you have these two bottles, blend them, and let me know what you think of them. All right, that's all I have for you today. So wherever you are at in your journey, I hope you are enjoying it. And until the next time, with the Baker's 13, we'll talk to everybody later. Bye.